chief leader writer, Sonia Sodha. Welcome back to both of you. So the Daily Mirror, a campaign success, they claim, which is a change to organ donor rules. There's to be a debate. So what's this one about?
So it's not a success yet. This is a really, I think, incredibly important issue of whether or not the default position for the whole population is that you're going to donate your organs unless you say otherwise, or whether you have to opt in, which is our current system. So at the moment, you actually have to make a conscious decision and make the effort to sign up to be on the organ donor register. And actually you can do that when you apply for your driving license, and there are a number of prompts that you do get to do it. But the fact is that there are huge waiting lists for organs, and all the evidence is that if we had a system where you had to opt out of it, that would make a huge difference to waiting lists. So, I mean, my own view is I'm hugely in favour of
And other parts of the British Isles have done that already, haven't they?
Yes, and other countries have done it. But it's a long way from being a success here. I know this has been debated in the House of Parliament before, and it hasn't got anywhere. So I'm slightly sceptical as to whether this will actually go through.
And I think even if it makes just a small difference, that's going to make even if it just affects a few lives, that makes it worth doing, very much so. And I think it is important to say that the proposal isn't that you opt out or your organs will absolutely be donated. There is still your family members can still object, for example, which makes it still very important that you let your wishes be known.
Yes. I just want to mention at the top there, new agony for Rio Ferdinand as now his mum dies of cancer, because many people will have seen that very moving documentary about life for him, dealing with the death of his wife and looking after his children, of which his mother was a great help. The Metro is also leading on this story and says that his mother has died of cancer just in her 60s after his wife, who was just 34, died of breast cancer. So it's a real tragedy for the family.
Yeah, it's just so desperately sad. But I think, massive kudos to him for being so open about his grief and about losing his wife, because I think being so open about it and having that documentary made about him would have probably helped countless fathers, mothers going through the same thing, raising children alone because they've lost someone. So I think we're seeing more people being more open about this stuff now. For example, we're seeing members of the royal family talking about grief more openly, and I think it's got to be a really good thing.
Yeah, well, a very sad story, certainly picked up by a number of the newspapers. Theresa May also showing her emotional side. Admits she shed a little tear.
Just a little tear, though, Anna.
The May box
she actually paused and thought about whether to say it or not, though, doesn't she? In this
I listened to the clip and I just thought, actually, everyone's making a huge fuss of this and saying, May shows her human side. To me, it didn't really, I would have liked to have pushed her a bit harder to just kind of tell us really what it felt like, because she was still very controlled.
Well, she said she has a superstition about watching the exit poll herself, so she left it up to her husband.
Not watching it didn't really help her, did it?
And it took a few minutes to sink in, the news. I'm not surprised.
Well, I'm surprised it didn't take a bit longer than that. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So still digesting that. But the Maybot tag, which followed Strong and Stable, one might argue, will that stick, do you think?
I think
yes.
so. I don't think this changed anything. I mean, I suspect that Number 10 are quite pleased with the publicity that they've had over this interview. They probably feel that it has somewhat humanised her. I think it's slightly
better than running through fields of wheat.
I don't think anyone doubts that she's somebody who feels a lot of compassion privately, but she's just not somebody who seems able to sort of communicate that, and that's very tricky.
I'm also not sure that it should be forced. Prime ministers often do better if they're themselves, even if themselves isn't exactly what we want them to be.
Right. Yeah. To Dirty Dancing. This was not intended either,
Sonia,
I think, actually, was it?
Story,
I think it's a great story. So it's a story of a couple about to get married, and they picked Dirty Dancing, the infamous dance where...
The film they'd seen 30 times or more.
Yes. This was going to be their first dance, and they were going to recreate that shot where... What's the character's name? Is it Jennifer? But her nickname's Baby. I've watched it quite a few times as well.
30 times.
Yeah, so runs into, Patrick Swayze, whatever the character he was, and sort of he holds her up in the lake, sort of dripping, Anyway, they were in the pub one afternoon and thought they'd give it a shot and have a practice. maybe not the best thing to do after an afternoon of drinking.
Actually, it doesn't say they had an afternoon of drinking. What it says is they've been enjoying the sunshine in a pub garden, which we think probably means they'd had a few.
So Sharon was left unable to breathe after winding herself, but poor old Andy...
He was actually knocked out.
He was knocked out.
And at first, their family thought they were just sort of having them on a bit, but then they realised that something serious was going on and actually called 999. But happily, they are all fine, and I think the wedding's still going ahead, but maybe they'll have rethought the first dance.
Johnny and I was told, and I've baby. Yeah, you were right.
Baby, that's it, yes.
Very, very quickly, mind the gender gap. Do not say ladies and gentlemen, or you might upset our LGBT
Apparently you now have to say, ladies and gentlemen, and people who identify as neither a lady nor a gentleman.
So what would you say then?
Well, they're actually...
Everyone?
This is a story about...
Please mind the gap.
Transport.
No, say.
That all just sounds a bit dodgy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Please mind the gap. But anyway, moving on. Apparently, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody, I think this is ridiculous. I mean, how far are we going to carry this? How many people are offended by ladies and gentlemen? Really?
Okay, discuss that in more detail after in the next programme. I also wanted to do the presidents and their first wives, but we'll do that also at 11:30. We'll see you later. Thank you very much indeed. Sonia, Sodha, Isabel Oakeshott. Time now for the weather.